Would you kill one person or double it and give it to the next person? Okay, on first thought, the answer seems obvious. Double it and give it to the next person. That person will get to decide whether to kill 2 people or give it to the next person. If they choose the next person, that person will choose between 4 people, or the next person 8 people, then the next person. And so if everybody just keeps passing it on to the next person, as long as there's no end to this, presumably nobody has to die. But we have to be rational here. Human beings are not perfectly moral, and especially if this does go on infinitely, which we're just going to park some of the laws of physics in order to allow for that to happen. Given an infinite amount of time, anything that could possibly happen is guaranteed to happen. If this genuinely goes on forever without end, then as long as it's possible for at least one person to pull that lever, it's guaranteed to happen at some point. So some number of people are getting killed here, but you are in quite a unique position. You are the only person in this entire scenario who can guarantee that the fewest number of people possible end up dying by pulling the lever, killing that one person, and ending the trolley problem right there. So weirdly, even though it seems like you're choosing between definitely killing one person or the potential to kill nobody, you're actually guaranteed to kill some amount of people if you pass it on to the next person, because if this does go on infinitely, somebody is going to pull the lever. However, of course, if we switch the laws of physics back on again, we can recognize that this will not, in fact, go on forever. And so my only question would be, when does this end? Like, is it 100 people that you could possibly give this to? In that case, I'd be pretty confident that no one's going to pull the lever and kill the innocent people, because I reckon 100 people have it in them to do the morally correct thing. But wait, I'm not sure about that, because as the number of people increases that could pull the lever, so do the number of victims. And actually, the number of victims are doubling every time. It's exponential, whereas the number of people who could potentially pull the lever are going up linearly. And I think people often don't really understand the power of exponential growth. There's a famous myth about some ruler of India sometime hundreds and hundreds of years ago. I think it might be like the guy who invents chess really impresses this Indian ruler. And the ruler says, "I'll give you a reward because of this wonderful game that you've invented, anything you like." And all the inventor of the chessboard wanted in return was for the ruler to take one single grain of rice and put it on the first square of the chessboard. Then just double it. Take 2 grains of rice and put it on the second square. Then 4 on the third square and 8 on the fourth square, and so on and so forth. And the ruler thinks, I got off pretty easy there, I can do that, it's just grains of rice. Sure thing, and he agrees. So on the first square, he puts 1 grain of rice. On the second, he puts 2. By the time he gets to the 10th square, there's 512 grains of rice. So still pretty manageable. But believe it or not, by the time you get to square number 20, there need to be 524,288 grains of rice on that square. By the time you get to square number 30, the ruler would need 536,870,912 grains of rice to fulfill his promise. So how many grains of rice would need to be placed on the final square of the chessboard, square number 64? 9 quintillion, 223 quadrillion, 372 trillion, 36 billion, 854 million, 775,808. That's a lot of rice. In fact, that's more grains of rice than there have been seconds since the universe began. So even if this scenario only had 100 potential people, and if you passed it on to 100 people and nobody pulled the lever, the game would just end. Even with only 100 people, if you double the number of victims every time, by the time you got to that 100th person, the number of victims would be, well, it's a number too large to actually say out loud, so I'll just put it on the screen. Yeah, that's how many people we'd have on the tracks if we only got to the 100th person in the chain. If we let this go on to person number 266, the number of victims at that point would be more than the estimated number of atoms in the observable universe. So let's look at some expected value here. Even if the probability that one of those 100 people would pull the lever is incredibly small, because the number of victims involved is so unfathomably large, you have to kind of count these against each other. Such is the power of exponential growth, and such is the reason why I think I would probably just pull the lever at the beginning to get this over with. Okay, so in this one, on the bottom track are ISPs, hackers, and big tech, and your internet data is about to collide with them. But if you pull the lever, you'll reroute your internet data onto a separate, secure track where it's safe. Seems pretty straightforward, this one, doesn't it? Well, luckily, that lever does actually exist, and it's today's sponsor, Private Internet Access. Private Internet Access is a virtual private network, a VPN, which protects your data by rerouting it through a separate secure server somewhere else in the world, hiding your IP address and protecting your personal information from those who might be trying to steal it. Using the internet without private internet access is like boxing without protective gear. You might be okay, but all it takes is one well-placed punch to knock you right on the ground. And because PIA makes it seem like you're somewhere else in the world, I can watch US Netflix even though I live in the UK. And PIA never record or store user data. Their no-logs policy has been proven multiple times in court via a third-party audit from Deloitte. So try it out for yourself and protect an unlimited number of devices from one subscription by going to piavpn.com/Alex. Use my link to get 83% off a subscription and 4 months for free. With that said, let's get back to it. If Omega predicts you won't pull the lever, 5 people are positioned into the tunnel. Okay, this needs some unpacking. So you've got 2 tracks. One has an innocent person tied up and the other has a tunnel, and you can't see what's in the tunnel. You've also got this thing called Omega, which for the purposes of this discussion is a prediction machine, and it's one that's accurate. If Omega predicts something is going to happen, it has 100% accuracy. And if you don't like imagining a machine that can predict things with 100% accuracy, then just imagine it's God or something with infallible foreknowledge. So here's the problem. Before this scenario is set up, the infallible predictor makes a prediction. And if the infallible predictor predicts that you'll send the trolley towards that tunnel, it will put 5 people under the tunnel. If, however, it predicts that you'll kill that one innocent person, it leaves the tunnel completely empty. So now you're on the tracks and you know all of this information and it's already set up. Omega can't go and change anything now. It's already set in place and nothing can be altered. So here's the question. What do you do? This is a variant of a paradox called Newcomb's paradox. Robert Nozick once said that when faced with this kind of situation, almost everybody knows, obviously, what the right answer is. The problem is that those people are split evenly, about 50-50, between which answer they think is the correct one. Here's how the problem was originally formulated. Suppose there are 2 boxes on a table, box 1 and box 2. It's some kind of game show. Box number 1 is transparent, and you can see that it's got $1,000 in it. Box number 2 is opaque. You can't see what's inside. And here are your options in the game. You can take for yourself either just the second box, box 2, or you can take box 1 and box 2. Once again, there is an infallible predictor, maybe an advanced AI, maybe God himself, but someone or something that's able to predict with 100% accuracy what you will do. Here's the catch. If the computer predicted that you would take both boxes, box 2 is left empty. There's nothing in it, and the total amount of money on the table is $1,000. But if the computer predicted that you would only take box 2 on its own, then the computer puts $1 million into box number 2. So you're stood at the table, you know that those are the circumstances. What do you do? For many people, it seems like you should just take the second box. It's an infallible predictor, and if you take both boxes, you'll only get $1,000, whereas if you just take that second box, you'll get $1 million. That seems pretty reasonable, but here's the thing. The scenario is already set up. The computer can't change anything now. I mean, think about it. If you decide for yourself, I'm definitely just going to take box 2 because the infallible predictor said that if I do that, I'll get $1 million. Okay, decision made. That's what you're about to do. And because you've made that decision, the box will have $1 million in it. But nothing can change. So if you now, knowing that, just say, actually, I'll take them both, that $1 million can't go anywhere, and presumably you'd just get an extra $1,000. But the problem with that, of course, is that that would mean the infallible predictor was wrong about which boxes you would choose. But it can't be wrong. So somehow, if you did change your mind in the last moment like that, the machine would have predicted it. I mean, look, if you ask me, if we just stipulate that the computer can't be wrong in its predictions, then I'm just taking that second box. Like, this isn't really much of a paradox to me. But I can understand why it seems absolutely ludicrous once you're there and the scenario is already set up and none of the conditions can be changed to think, well, now, why wouldn't I just take the second box as well? It's not like they can get rid of the $1 million. But I think that people who feel that way are just struggling to comprehend what it would mean to have a genuinely infallible predictive machine. Hopefully you can see that this trolley problem is a version of the same paradox. If the machine predicts that you'll send the trolley into the tunnel, then it will have put 5 people there. But if it predicts that you would only kill the one, there's nobody under the tunnel. What do we do here? Well, if we send it into the tunnel, the predictive machine will have put 5 people in there, so that would be the wrong thing to do. So let's only kill that one person. Okay, decision made. We pull the lever, we kill the one innocent person. But hold on, we know the conditions, which means knowing that the tunnel is empty, we've decided to still kill that one innocent person. But if you do know that, if you know the tunnel must be empty, and you also know that the machine can't do anything now, the scenario has already been set up and nothing can be changed, why would you kill the innocent person instead of sending it through an empty tunnel? Well, okay, I'll just send it through the tunnel then. But if the machine predicted that you were going to do that, then it would have put 5 people in the tunnel and you'll kill 5 innocent people. So you should definitely run over the one person. But if the machine predicted you'll run over the one person, the tunnel would be empty, so you should send it through the tunnel. But that would mean that you should send it to the one person, but if you send it to the one person, that means that the tunnel's empty and you should send it through the tunnel. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a paradox. And of course, this paradox leans really heavily on the concept of there being this perfectly infallible predictive machine or being, which maybe because of these kinds of paradoxical outcomes, we might just say that such a being or such a machine is just impossible. But look, if you believe in God and you believe that God is omniscient, then God is this kind of machine. He's a perfectly infallible predictor. If he predicts that something is going to happen in the future, it's guaranteed to happen. Famously, this brings up some difficult considerations around human free will. If God knows what I'm about to do in 5 minutes with 100% accuracy, am I really free to choose to do something else? If I were, then that means I could do it, but if I could do it, that would mean I could make God wrong about something. And that doesn't seem right. There's been loads of discussion around that problem, and I think it highlights the weirdness that comes about philosophically when we introduce a perfectly infallible predictor. I mean, situations like this might just demonstrate the impossibility of perfect predictor machines in a world where free will can exist, or alternatively, the impossibility of free will in a world where perfect predictor machines can exist. That would mean it's just up to you which is more plausible, the existence of free will or the existence of a perfect predictor machine, because the existence of one might rule out the existence of the other. For me, again, it's relatively simple. If we just stipulate that the machine is 100% accurate in its prediction, then yeah, you should kill that one innocent person. That seems relatively obvious to me, but as Robert Nozick pointed out, there'll be about half of you listening going, "What are you talking about, man? You should obviously send it into the tunnel." But I don't know. Let me know what you would do in the comments. Let's boost that engagement. Okay, in this one, a trolley is heading towards one person, and if you allow it to kill them, your memory will also be wiped, so you won't remember what's just happened. If you pull the lever, then the trolley won't kill anybody, but it will make you think that you've killed somebody, and you'll live the rest of your life with that guilt, thinking that you've killed someone. No one actually dies, but you'll believe that someone had died. Now, I'm proud to say that this particular trolley problem was posted years ago to a Trolley Problem Memes Facebook page, and the person who made it said that they were inspired by one of my old podcasts where I brought up a similar dilemma, so thanks for that. And what this basically boils down to is, would you rather kill an innocent person and then immediately forget about it forever, or not kill an innocent person, but live the rest of your life thinking that you had, and living with that guilt? Here it's important to separate two questions. What would you do, and what should you do? I think most people confronted with a situation like this think the right thing to do is sacrifice your own psychological well-being and keep the person alive. But when people reflect on what they would do given the choice, I think a lot of people admit that they just wouldn't be able to put themselves through that. And if you are feeling a bit torn about this one, it is worth remembering this is also a trolley problem, meaning that you don't exactly kill the person, rather you just allow them to die by not pulling the lever. You might still think that's a really bad thing to do, but it might not be quite as bad as killing them proactively. So is it permissible for the sake of your own psychological welfare to kill an innocent person? Worded like that, most people would say no. And like I say, when asked what you should do, I think most people that I ask this to say that you should save the person and live with the guilt for the rest of your life. Just put up with it. But if that's the case, it does tell us one interesting thing, which is that ethics seemingly isn't entirely reducible to what's good for our own selves. The reason this is important is because some meta-ethical theories try to prove that we should care about other people because caring about other people is in some way good for us. Like, a lot of people think that ethics is just about well-being, and they say that's just kind of a brute fact. Well-being just feels good. This is kind of what Sam Harris does, right? He says, if you disagree that pain is bad, just go and put your hand on a stove and see how long you can hold on to that belief. And you might say to Sam Harris, as I did for about 3 hours straight, okay, I think my pain is bad for me, so to speak, but then why should I care about other people? To which one response might be, well, if you don't care about other people's well-being, they're all going to suffer, and it's going to make society worse, which in turn will make your life worse. In fact, that is basically what Sam Harris said to me when I raised this objection. Take a look.
I mean, the first answer to your question, why should you care about other people, is really prior to the question. You can just notice that you do, right? That like you this is your default mode if you're not a psychopath. And there's a reason why that is, because so much of what's good in life is born of your entanglement with other people. I mean, we're deeply social creatures. And if you're going to go live in a cave, well, then the conversation might change a little bit. I mean, a moral solitude is its own thing, and we can talk about that. But given that most of us have to and want to interact with other people, I think we will find most of the time that we actually want to interact with people who are not miserable, right? We don't want desperate, miserable people crowding our door. We want people who are filled with joy and creative energy and have good things to say and interesting things to say. They have the disposable wealth and time so as to do beautiful things that we appreciate. Like when you open Netflix, you want to see good shows, not terrible shows. At least you want to see some shows, and that presupposes the people who have the free time and energy to make shows, right? Because you want to be entertained by happy people.
So, okay, maybe the reason that I should care about other people's well-being is because I want to watch good shows on Netflix. But a lot of people look at this and say that's incomplete. It may be true that other people living good lives is good for me, but that's not why I care about their well-being. It's not all self-interested. I feel like I should care about other people because that's the right thing to do, not because it's all about me. And one way of demonstrating that is with a problem like this. If we can just stipulate that this is an isolated incident, it's not going to have any further effects on society or anything like that, no one's going to know about it. You just either kill someone and then forget, or don't kill them and live with the guilt. What should you do? I don't understand how someone like Sam Harris, or with Sam Harris's worldview, could possibly say that the right thing to do is to not kill them and live with the guilt. Now, of course, I think if I asked Sam about this, he would probably say that killing the person is wrong. I just don't know how he would justify it. Maybe he would talk about the societal effects. Maybe he'd talk about Netflix. I'm not sure. But I really think that in this isolated scenario, if all the conditions are met, a worldview like his commits you to the view that the right thing to do is to kill the person. So maybe if you think that you shouldn't kill the person, despite the psychological harm it's going to bring you, you've just learned something interesting about a point of disagreement between you and Sam Harris. Now, of course, I'm not Sam Harris. I might have misrepresented his views by mistake. He's also not an ethicist primarily, and there are all kinds of ethical worldviews that don't rely on assumptions like this. But I just wanted to point out that if you think that this is an obvious ethical dilemma, which many of you will do, the obviousness that you feel might help you to work out why it is that you agree or disagree with a variety of meta-ethical theories. Like, some people will look at this and say, honestly, mate, I don't really understand this should and shouldn't language. I don't think that makes much sense. The only thing that exists is what I do and what I don't do, as a matter of fact. And in this case, I don't want to live with that, and I just would kill the person. That kind of person might sound really callous, but they're also being really honest and might give us an interesting insight into the psychology of people whose ethical worldview is either non-existent or essentially egoistic. And if we think there's something wrong in what they're saying, if we're not willing to just go, fair enough, man, yeah, you do your thing and I'll do mine, if we want to say, no, that's the wrong decision to make, we've now got a challenge ahead of us, which is to justify why they're wrong. You might say to them, but you're taking an innocent life. And they say, so what? I don't care. And that doesn't shake your belief that it's wrong to take an innocent life, but it makes you realize that not everybody thinks that's obvious, and if you actually try to justify it, it's a bit harder than you might have thought. Like, yeah, why should somebody care if they just don't? Well, because it's just the decent thing to do. Yeah, but what does that mean for somebody who doesn't have the same idea of decency as you do? Like, what is the actual basis for your view that there are certain things that are right and certain things that are wrong, regardless of how you feel about it? And really, that's what all of these problems are about. Philosophical thought experiments get a lot of flack for being a bit silly and convoluted. It's like, this is never going to happen in reality, so why should I care? But the point of these thought experiments is not to prepare us for the off chance that we might one day come across a real-life trolley problem someday. Of course not. The reason that we use these examples is to try to work out what ethical principles we're living by. What are our ethical assumptions? Why do we think certain things are right and wrong? What do we think is right and wrong? And are we justified in those beliefs? So in some sense, these problems are not really problems at all, in that they're not supposed to be solved. You're not supposed to work out what the right answer is. Instead, you're supposed to just see what you happen to think the right answer is and learn something interesting about yourself. And I want to learn lots of interesting things about all of you. So do let me know what you think about these trolley problems in the comments. I promise I'm really not just engagement farming, but it does help. So,